Hello there. Back so soon? Seems weird doing a bonus actually on a Wednesday. I suppose that's one of the benefits of a slightly looser schedule on my main channel. I'm still hoping for a Sunday release for this video that I'm working on, but I don't know. I've got some music to write and some fancy graphics to do. I should really keep things simple and just get it out. But you know what I'm like. Anyway, in the background this week, I've got some gameplay of Super Time Force, which is one of the free games on Xbox Live with Games with Gold. I recorded my first half hour with it, so I'm pretty terrible at the game. Please excuse that. It's neat. It has a nice little time rewind gimmick. Otherwise, it kind of plays a bit like Contra. Anyway, on with the questions. JD Narendrelal says, great to see you back. What was your opinion on the Scottish referendum? Ah yes, the vote, or the referendum on Scottish independence, which was resolved last Thursday with, well, a no result. No independence for Scotland as voted for by Scotland. I wasn't too surprised, to be honest. Ironically enough, possibly the worst thing to happen to the Yes campaign was the last poll just before the election that said Yes had a marginal lead. Because what that's going to do is it's just going to prompt all of the undecideds to make sure that they go in and vote no. Because the thing is, I mean, it's romantic, all right? I like Scotland. I mean, I am of Scottish lineage, and I like the Scottish identity, and part of me would like to see Scotland independent. Because, I mean, I can kind of empathise with them. The north of England is governed by Westminster and London, and I'd like to see more autonomy here. So I can imagine how Scotland might feel. But you can't pretend that independence doesn't come without risks. And that was the problem, really. I mean, these sort of big unknowns. Like, what happens with the economy? What happens with the currency? Why are these questions not really answered in a satisfactory way? So with that considered, 45% voting yes that's a significant amount, and it's a clear indication that there needs to be some change in Scotland. But there are too many risks associated with independence. There are too many questions left unanswered. So, I mean, it was pretty obvious, I think, that no was going to prevail. It's one thing to campaign for yes, but when it comes to making a mark on paper and signing away the future of your nation, then I think you are going to see a chill for the Conservatives, you know, kind of a swing towards the status quo, and that's pretty much what happened. It's a shame, but it's probably a sensible decision. Anyway, hopefully, we'll see some decentralisation. Not just Scotland, north of England as well. Alright, boom, there we go. That's enough politics for this episode. M4N1T0UMLT840 says, Stu, instead of doing constant pilots of new shows and changing your format, work on the stuff your fans enjoy, like iconic arms, weapons of, etc., etc. Might I remind you that Iconic Arms was originally a pilot. And if I hadn't have, you know, pushed the boat out, experimented with something new, then I wouldn't have Iconic Arms. I get it. Iconic Arms is popular, it's done well. I get this much. However, there is incredible value in experimentation, in trying new things. Not only do I learn new things whilst I'm doing new things, I also get to experiment and try stuff and see what works and see what doesn't. And invariably, I learn some lessons which help me in other videos. So by doing pilots, by doing sort of experimental stuff, I get better. And that's what I live for. I'm a creative sort, you know, I get bored by monotony. I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. And I think the same's true of my audience in general. I think if I did the same thing over and over again, some of you would get bored. So a little bit of variety, I think, is a good thing. But, don't worry. Look, I know Iconic Arms is good. Iconic Arms gets views. Views gives me money. There is enough incentive for me to continue Iconic Arms. If you want to see more Iconic Arms, fret not, for there will be many, many more episodes over the next year or so. I'm not going to do one a week for the next year. I'm maybe going to do, you know, maybe 24 episodes over the next 12 months, maybe 18, maybe 24, something in that region anyway. But there will be at least a few new seasons of Iconic Arms, of that you can rest assured. It's just I'm going to do some different stuff in the middle. And people are going to complain. They're going to say, oh, Stu, just do iconic arms. It's all I want. Please do the M16. Please do the M1911. Please. I will. All right? I will. I can already foresee the comments, on the forthcoming specials. This first video I'm working on, it's heartfelt. There's a story. It's a sad tale of trial over inevitable death. It's heartwarming. It's heart-wrenching. It's sad. And it details a fascinating slice of gaming history. But it's not iconic arms. C-Pin says, why is everyone so pro-marijuana and thinks swatting was way worse? Swatters have made mistakes. Marijuana users have made a mistake. It's the same thing. No, it isn't the same thing. In no sense is it the same thing. Look, even if you're against the legalization of marijuana, you cannot equate swatting with the use of illegal drugs. You simply can't. They're not the same thing. Are you deluded? Anyway, Aaron Darimple says, Stu, the whole 305 guns thing is actually just variations of the same gun. Like, there will be the normal gun, and then a special edition that increases handling but decreases accuracy. Don't panic. You'll be fine. Well, that is good news. It sounds just like, kind of a different form of an attachment then, I guess. So, yeah, I reckon... I'll think about this later, but I reckon I should be just fine doing, one video per category of weapons. I've got a loose plan in my mind. We'll do cold open, we'll do an introduction on the category, speak to the type of use that, for instance, an LMG might, blah, 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 if you want to lock down, blah, 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 it's the LMGs. And then we'll do a parade. We'll do a parade of the available LMGs, and then we'll do a parade of the attachments, and then we'll talk about recommendations, what's ideal, the ideal way to employ the LMGs, and then we'll talk about perks, and then we'll talk about general playstyles and tips, and then we'll do a conclusion. Something like that anyway. There'll be nice, long videos, I think. I don't know. I may change this. It's amazing how an idea can be diverted once it's been put into practice, and you realise that, actually, it'd be better if I did it this way. But that's my basic idea. I reckon I should be alright. There is a degree of flexibility in there. Limit says, do you add any filters to your videos, or do you keep your footage stock? I apply a light touch of colour correction. Just a slight shift in colours, a boost to saturation. And I also apply a light sharpening filter, just to counteract the somewhat muddy effects that you get sometimes with compression. Lucas says, Stu, congrats on reviving Retro Ahoy, but just one quick question. How retro are we talking about? NES, Super NES, PS1, PS2, or all the way back to the golden age of the arcade? Anything's fair game, really. My general rule of thumb is at least 10 years old, but I might be willing to be flexible on that if there was a game that I wanted to cover. I was thinking about doing a series on classic console FPS games, and stuff like Black, which was released in 2006. That might be a potential. And Time Splitters as well, that's relatively recent, like 2003, 2004. But yeah, if I have a game that I want to talk about, I probably wouldn't shy away from it. Freddie Dean says, you're coming up on 100,000 gamer score now, Stu. Any celebratory plans? No. It's just a number, isn't it? Code Sacrifice says, where was my wedding invitation? I never got it. It wasn't my wedding to give invitations for. I was a +1. It was my wife who was invited, and I just went with her. Grey Wolf Leader TW says, did your wife go with you to the wedding? Yes, she did. And was there any interesting things that happened at your friend's wedding? Nothing outrageous. No, it was relatively interesting. It was a Buddhist ceremony, so there was a bit of chanting. And they had this holy piece of parchment with some writing on that they had like this mechanical shutter that opened up, and then they chanted for about 5 minutes, and then it automatically closed. It was fine, honestly, it's no weirder than a Christian ceremony, so yeah, it was fine. The rest of it was normal, apart from the fact that the French like to eat very late. The dinner, the first course, was served at around 11 p.m, the last course around 1 a.m. They really do take fashionably late to an extreme. Other than that, well, it was really just a day-long fight against the language barrier with my basic French, and the French is actually pretty good English. I think most of them can speak it. They just don't like to. Warthog117 says, how do you like your eggs? I like mine benedicted. That is, served with bacon on an English muffin and smothered in hollandaise sauce. That's a thing, right? I'm pretty sure that's a thing. I guess technically in Eggs Benedict the egg is poached, but it's really not the same without the bacon and the hollandaise sauce. The muffin, I guess I could do without the muffin, but, well, you know, if you can have everything else, the muffin might as well come along as well. The Red Avenger 89 says, has anyone suggested the Gatling/minigun for Iconic Arms yet? Yes, they have. Several people have, in fact. I've had so many requests. Did you know there was one person who requested the Danish SMG, the Madsen M50? Alright, fair enough. Apart from the fact that it's never been in a video game. Ever! I never asked for requests. I know what guns are popular. I know what guns people like. I can choose for you, but no. Everybody has to suggest something. Stu, have you ever considered doing the M16? Well, yes. Yes, I have. Lieutenant General Spartan says, do you have any favourite Star Wars games? And would you consider KOTOR on Retro Ahoy, as it's already 11 years old, and it was number 3 on IGN's top 10 games of last decade? Favourite Star Wars game? Probably Dark Forces, I'd say. It's certainly one that I've played a significant amount, and it's jolly good fun. KOTOR, I have played a little bit, but I haven't really got into it. I don't think it's dated that well, but I mean, I wouldn't rule it out for Retro Ahoy. It's certainly a possibility. Tuga Avenger says, Quake and Unreal, but not Unreal Tournament, sad face. Oh well, something would be left out. Fret not. My initial run of classic FPS games, I've decided to focus on single-player FPS. However, I do think there is scope for a short series on multiplayer FPS. And of course, Unreal Tournament would be in there, Quake 3 Arena, and Counter-Strike, I think. I could do a full 6 episodes on multiplayer. I suppose you've got stuff like, what else is there? Stuff like Day of Defeat, maybe? Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. I don't know. There's a few other sort of reasonably big multiplayer games that could be covered. Oh, Team Fortress, I suppose. The classic Team Fortress. That could be done. The only issue with old multiplayer games is recording, because, you've got to either find active servers, or you've got to get people together, or you've got to play against bots, which is, that's probably the preferable option, because you don't have to organise anything, you just hop on and you can set them to easy to get sick clips. But definitely, I would consider doing multiplayer FPS. Console FPS as well, because you'll notice that there aren't really any major console FPSs in the list there. That's because consoles are a little bit slow in terms of getting FPS games. The first is probably, the first of any significance, is possibly GoldenEye, or Alien vs Predator on the Jaguar. That was kind of a system seller, because it was an exclusive. It was impressive as well. This was in the wake of Doom's success. Everyone wanted to have a Doom clone on their system, and the Jaguar was no. I mean, the Jaguar had Doom, but it also had Alien vs Predator. Other console games, of course, Halo. Halo would be a huge one, I think. And then I don't know, what else have you got? Stuff like Time Splitters. That was reasonably popular. SOCOM. The SOCOM fans are weird. I don't know what it is about SOCOM fans, but they are rabid. Time Splitters fans, well, they are pretty passionate, but they're less, I don't know, there's a certain, like Time Splitters fans, they get upset when you don't mention Time Splitters. SOCOM fans, you start to worry that they're going to turn up at your house. Yeah, there's something about them. Anyway, I best not go on, otherwise they probably will turn up at my house. Nate LD says, I think a lot of your viewers picked up on your channel because you focused on accurate information about specific firearms. I know I did. You did a background on the firearm, information about it, game culture, movie culture, and actual culture on it. That's the whole reason I'm subscribed to your channel, and I would think a lot of people are. So I would hope you stick to the gun culture versus the just gaming culture. Well, First of all, don't worry. The gun content isn't going to disappear. Like I say, Iconic Arms is going to be a regular recurrence, I think. Certainly over the next year, possibly. Maybe for longer, maybe a couple of years worth. I can see myself doing stuff like Weapons of over a longer term period as well. Last week I was talking about, making more videos that appeal to general gaming culture, and I do want to do that, but it will be in addition to stuff like Iconic Arms. Diversity is strength and all of that nonsense. I kind of want to win over the people who are... There's a whole bunch of people who are vehemently anti-gun. In fact, a lot of the gaming media tends to be quite left-wing. And I mean, I have some left-leaning tendencies myself. I can certainly empathise with them. It's just... I don't share that sort of liberal aversion to guns. So I'd quite like to be taken seriously by, the journalism world. In fact, to be honest, I'd quite like to embarrass them for their inability to produce compelling video content. So anyway, there will be some general gaming content, but it will be as part of the mix. And don't worry, like I say, the guns will remain. Tim Coey says, any ideas for another series? Maybe another Brief History? As far as Brief History is concerned, I actually have kind of an idea for the evolution of it. I'm thinking of changing its structure slightly. I'm thinking of getting away from the strict chronological order and instead going for a serialized approach. I mean, here's the thing. YouTube is not a particularly good avenue for videos that are about 20 minutes long. It's not the right place for them. What really does well, at least in terms of, my videos, are videos that are between 5 and about 8 minutes long. So for the future of Brief History, what I was thinking is instead of doing one monolithic video, is doing a series of maybe 5 shorter videos, maybe 5 by 5 minutes, for 25 minutes total. And with each of these shorter videos, picking out a phase in the grand overarching topic. So I'd quite like to do a brief history of graphics. So the first episode, or the first of the 5, would be something like, the very origins of graphics. The second would maybe be 16-bit sprite era. And then the third, maybe early 3-dimensional stuff. The fourth, the advent of 3D acceleration. And then the fifth, more recent trends. Brown, bloom, motion blur, chromatic aberration. And sort of trends like that, I think, would be the last episode. And also, Crisis. Crisis, I think, would be a good sort of linchpin for a transition to the modern age of graphics. So 5 minutes on each of those. Keep it, brief, like a brief history. And I think it would also help with the structure. And I would structure them as individual videos. They'd have a little intro, they'd have, a little setup, and then they would have the meat, and then they'd have an outro. And then what I would do, for those people who like a long video, I could edit them all together. I could make a 25-minute long video with a unique intro, and, some bridging work to sort of compile them all into a single, longer video. But this way, instead of just having one long video, I'd have 5 short videos, one long one, and, well, I'd have a greater surface area for search, and I'd have more views overall, which, would earn me more money. And I don't like to be crass, but more money is a good thing from my point of view. So that's where I'm at with Brief History. I'm thinking of changing the format quite significantly. Oh, and I forgot to mention, these videos would be released sequentially. So like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each of them a short video, and then maybe Sunday for the long edit. So I think serialized content like that would give people a greater incentive to subscribe. I think that sort of format would suit YouTube pretty well. So this is something that I would quite like to try. Of course, again, I might do it and then discover that it's actually harder or less suitable than I thought, and then I might have to change it again in the future, but there's something I'm thinking about trying at least. As well as an episode on graphics, I was also thinking about doing an episode on military games. So I could split that up into 5 different sections and maybe talk about military strategy games, military action games like Ikari Warriors, Contra. These were both inspired by Rambo, incidentally. There was a huge flurry of sort of muscle-clad men with machine guns around about that time. And then, of course, Counter-Strike, I suppose, and the tactical shooters. they were quite sort of modern mill influenced. And then, yeah, COD 4, and, well, ever since COD 4, modern military has been a pretty safe place for game developers to explore. That's only 4 episodes, but you know, I haven't done the planning yet. I'm sure I can work out 5. Super Mahalo says, no! Don't cover Advanced Warfare! Sorry, I'm just anticipating a whole bunch of people asking me for Advanced Warfare content, and, I mean, let's face it, I built my entire channel on Call of Duty. I mean, I am trying to move away from it, and I'm certainly not going to spend a year on it. I'm going to spend about a month, maybe a month and a half on it. But yeah, I mean, I am going to cover Advanced Warfare. It's probably going to be a reasonably popular game. It's probably going to get a reasonable amount of views. And I've done so many COD videos. It's second nature to me now. I can do COD videos in my sleep. The Bane of Existence says, Stu, as a content creator, what is your opinion about intros? Like, how long should they be? What should they say? Are they even necessary? Intro, I think it is important to have an identity in your videos. Absolutely important. But, of course, you don't want an intro that goes on for too long. You don't want it all cha-cha-ya, woo, for 30 seconds. No, you don't want that. You want to keep it pretty lean, really. Just establish your identity, then get on with the content. I mean, I used to do the whole, hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the 22nd episode of my Call of Duty Ghost Weapon Guide. And I started to find that a little bit long-winded. It's a little bit pompous, you know? So what I prefer now is what I call the cold open, where I just sort of go straight into the meat and potatoes. Like if I'm going to do a video about LMGs, you know, instead of, hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is my video about LMGs, I just say, if you want to lock down a point, there's nothing better than an LMG. You know, it's a way of capturing people's attention straight away, and, well, whether it works or not is a question for the ages. But I like my cold opens. I think they're pretty effective. Now, as far as my identity, I guess you could say my voice is a critical part of my identity, and, well, that and the fact that I generally do a pretty well-produced video. And, well, if that isn't enough, then I've got my logo. Just logo on the screen for a few seconds. I like to have a little bit of dead air so I can pause the video, because, you know, sometimes I'll be on my video page. I don't want to hear my own voice. So I need a little bit of time so I can pause. So yeah, intros. Keep them as short as possible, but make sure you establish an identity. Anyway, I think I have reached my time, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next Wednesday for another bonus. And possibly this weekend for this historical special, which I've been working on. But rest assured, I shall attempt to get myself in gear and get that finished as soon as possible, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. Because it is a wild card. I mean, it could do alright, or it could just go down like a damn squib. I don't really care either way, but I don't want to waste 2-3 weeks on something which isn't going to please the majority of my audience. So I'll clear it as soon as I can, and then I'll move on to some other specials. Retro Ahoy is coming up very soon. Oh, and I'll probably do a corresponding Xbox Ahoy Plays, which I know I haven't done in a long while. But, like I say, whilst I'm taking a slightly more relaxed approach to scheduling on my main channel, I can take a couple of days out to do a Let's Play. So I'll probably do that then. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.